Hi everyone, welcome back to Mr. B TV. Today I want to run through a brief introduction to using Adobe Illustrator. I'm using version CS5 on the MacBook here, though the steps should carry across to the PC version just fine. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new Illustrator file, and I'm going to accept the default that I have here of A4. If you after any settings, want to change your units for a custom size project, you have your bleed settings as well. You can also change your color mode from CMYK to RGB. I'm going to keep it on CMYK for now. Once everything's the way you want it, click OK, and we have our new project. Alright, so I'm assuming you know your way around Photoshop in terms of this introduction, so that I don't need to go through with you the concept of your layers and how different layers work in your Adobe packages, or the basics of what the toolbox the toolbox is. We have our selection tool as our default, and we'll run through now what some of the more commonly used tools that you'll need are and how they work. So first of all, let's start with just drawing a very basic shape. So I'm going to get the rectangle tool. So just like Photoshop, if I click and hold, then I can get sub options come up here in my toolbox. So I'm going to choose the rectangle tool, and I'm going to come into my page, click, drag out a rectangle, and let go. And we have the blue selection lines across a black rectangle of 1 pixel in width. I can, if I switch back to my selection tool and just click off of it, you can see it much more clearly. So the blue comes up whenever I'm over it. So if I just re-highlight that again, after having created it, I can adjust this, the settings and everything else for it. Just like Photoshop, up here in the toolbars, this changes depending upon what tool I have use of or what I've got selected in my page. So I can change my stroke, for instance, from being 1 point to being 5 points, and we can see now that we have a thicker black box. If I re-highlight it again, I can change my stroke color from black to red, and my fill, which at the moment is empty, so if I click on this box, I can give it a yellow fill. And there is my rectangle. I can do the same with ellipses, and you can see that it's kept these same settings, though I can change them on demand if I want to. So this time I might go for a dark blue with a bit of a green inside it. Alright. Oops, and I just created another one on the fly because because I've just clicked, use my ellipse tool. Alright, so let's go back to the selection, which is what I was originally trying to do when I accidentally started making ellipses. And we'll just hit the delete key to get rid of a couple of these. You can see that this has not done anything to my rectangle. I deleted it and my rectangle is still there underneath. But I can stack objects one on top of the other. But if I want the rectangle to come up over the ellipse, quite easy. I can just go down to arrange and say I want to bring, well, I've got the rectangle highlighted, so I want to bring that one forward, and now it is in front of my ellipse. So yeah, I can do that. I can change my strokes and my fills. Alright, if I'm wanting to change the colors and I want more choices than I have here, I can choose a new color. Okay, so the little new icon, and I can either use my CMYKs or I can ask to choose from RGB. And if you know your RGB codes for your color, you can obviously put them in there. This will just limit my choices to the web safe ones. Alright, so is there a way to get the Alright, there's your whole color rainbow there, going the hue, saturation, brightness path. I was trying to find something that had the color chooser like what you get in Photoshop. It doesn't look like it's in Illustrator. This is probably the closest to what it might be used to. So that's under hue, saturation, brightness. That's what the HSB stands for. Anyway, I've made my new color. Click OK, and you'll see here that it now appears in my choice of colors that I've got. Okay, so I can create these simple objects. Let's close that down. Okay, I can stack them. I can change the strokes and the fills. I can also change the opacities. Okay, all this kind of stuff that you're used to with Photoshop. All right. The pen tool is one that really messes people up when they first get started with Illustrator because it behaves unlike any tool that they're used to, certainly from Photoshop. There's actually a really good video that I've got linked on the course website about the pen tool. I suggest you watch that because he takes the time to go through it in quite a bit of detail. Alright, so but just briefly, click, 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 click. Okay, now you'll notice because we have the fill, you can tell that I actually haven't closed my shape. Alright, so best practice is to then come up to my first dot, and then you can tell that you're on it because it comes up with the little green word there saying anchor, and click on that, and that has closed my shape. Okay, and so now if I start clicking away, alright, if I didn't close the shape and then start clicking away again, it thinks it's still part of the same shape, and so my shape starts becoming deformed and going crazy. But if I click back on my original anchor, I can now click somewhere else separate, and it's not going to try joining it up to my first shape. Okay. All right. Now, this is all very well and good if I like straight lines, but what happens if I want curves? All right. If I click and click and drag, all right, so I'm still holding this from this second click here. I'm still holding my mouse. I'm just dragging my mouse down, and you can see that it's making my line curved. So now if I let go, all right, and now I'm going to say click over here, and it's defaulted straight away to a curved line. All right, maybe I didn't want a curved line for my second one. All right, so if I just do an undo for there, I can, if I want my second line to be straight, I come back to my first anchor here and just click again, and you can see it got rid of part of that blue line, which was the controller for the second curve. I can now come down here and click, and it's giving me a straight line, and then I click on my original anchor, oops, to close. There we go. Okay. Now, after I've created my shape with the curved line, I can still adjust it. Sorry, wrong selection tool. Okay, so there are two selection tools. This is my shape selection. This will select my whole shape. Okay, and then there is the direct selection tool, which is what we use for manipulating parts of our shapes. So if I click using that on here, you can see I get the handle to control my curve. All right, and I can also grab any of these anchor points. They're known as, okay, the little dots along the line. I can grab them and shift them around, and therefore manipulate my shape. What happens if I actually decide, oh well, I actually would have preferred if this was, you know, kind of out here a little bit, but I don't want to move the whole line. I want to move a point out here. I can create these little anchor point dots. I can create another one here in the middle. If I go up to the toolbox where my pen tool is, add anchor point, and then come down here in the line where I want my extra point, and click, and go back up to my direct selection tool, and now I can grab this little dot and say I want to pull you out like that. And so now I've created those extra anchor points. If I make too many anchor points, say I don't want this corner here, I just want a straight line from this anchor point to that anchor point, I can come back up here to my pen tool, delete anchor point. Alright, if I get rid of this anchor point, you can see it got rid of it, and so now it just connected the two other anchor points that were underneath it. Alright, so that's the pen tool. Let's get rid of those. Alright, so the pen tool is actually, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's really powerful, and it's fantastic for being allowing you to make really complex shapes and making them neatly and accurately. Other than the pen tool, for freehand purposes, you've got things such as the pencil and the paintbrush. Okay, so the pencil, basically you can see we're forming a little dotted line, there we go. And again though, we have anchor points along the way, which I can manipulate in exactly the same way. Alright, and you'll see that because my pencil tool has drawn it as a curve, I have all these curve elements on it. Can I use the delete anchor tool to delete a curve? No. But I can delete the whole anchor point if I want to. Alright, let's go back, default that back to the normal pen tool. Okay, so I've got my pencil tool, and yeah, I can adjust the stroke and everything else to do with my pencil as well. Whoops, okay. Let's move that out of the way. So yes, if I wanted it to be a thicker line, I can do that. I can change the style of pencil that I'm using. Okay, in the same way, this is actually very similar to the brush tool. Okay, I can say, right, let's just reselect this. I want this brush to look like a paintbrush. Let's change this stroke thickness. Okay, and let's change the color. Alright, now, so you might think, oh, well, I'll just use the pencil tool. Okay, trust me when I say the pen tool will make for it. It is worth the investment of learning how to use the pen tool. It will make your drawings so much sharper, so much more professional. Alright, that said, if I've used this pencil tool, I can also use Illustrator to help smooth it out a little bit. So if I keep it highlighted, now where is the smooth tool? I think it's under pencil. There it is. If I now go to my first anchor point and click and let's see what that does to it, and drag and follow the line, select the part of the line that I want the smooth tool to fix up. You can see that it's, and then I let go, it smoothed out the line a little bit. So if you're doing hand drawing, the smooth tool can help tidy up your rough edges. You can see that it's basically eliminated a whole bunch of the extra anchor points that were there as well. Alright, so that went from 5 anchor points to 3. So that's basically the kind of process that it uses to smooth things out. Alright, that got rid of that anchor point altogether. So you could probably do largely the same with the smooth tool just by removing surplus anchor points yourself. Like Photoshop, you've got all your free transform, your scale, your rotate, reflect. Right, so reflect will make a mirror copy, a vertical mirror copy, for instance. Well, not a copy, but reflect across the mirror. But if you do a copy and paste to have 2 copies of it, then you can do a mirror copy. Two swans or ducks kissing each other. There you go. How's that for an imagination? And you have all your typefaces as well. Okay, so let's make a nice fairly large font happening here. And we can go larger than that. Alright, now, one cool little thing about Illustrator. Now, this is writing. Fairly elementary, dear Watson. Okay, and I can come into it and double click it and keep editing. Alright, nothing too earth-shattering there. But once I've finished saying, and I can also transform it. Alright. Let's just change this to a, let's go red. Alright, say I've done typing. I know I'm not going to want to type anymore, but I want to treat it and manipulate it just like my lines and my shapes. I can. Once I've got it highlighted, I can go to Object. What is it? Does it expand? Yes. Okay, there it goes. Object expand. Okay, and what it's done, you can see here now with all the extra anchor point dots around everything, it's no longer lettering that I can just double click into and change the wording of what it says. It's converted everything into dots, into shapes. Alright, now at the moment it's defaulted to having it all in a group. You can see here we've still got this big box around it all. I'm going to ungroup it and click off, and now click on, and you can see I can select individual parts, and I can now pick up the H and move it over there if I want. Not only that, but because they're all shapes, if I oops, running out of battery. Alright, let's just quickly zoom in on this a little bit. Okay. Oh, steady on. Okay. And I'll get my direct selection tool, and I select this T. Now I can grab this anchor point and bring it over here to my H. And start making it look as if they're all part of the same letter. Let's grab this curve handle. How's that? Okay, I can do the same up here. Grab these two anchors. Oh, gotta make sure you. Okay, if that sort of thing happens, then just click a second time onto the anchor. Right. So I can start taking what was originally my letters and start turning them into shapes. And this will come in very handy when you're creating logos, because you may want to start with a certain font and some lettering and then manipulate your font to turn it into the shape for your logo. So there you go. That's a quick and dirty introduction to Illustrator and some of the basic tools that you'll need, how to use them, or the basics of getting started with them. But the best way to really go with Illustrator is to play. Alright, so I've given you some sample projects on the course website, some exercises to keep going with, and really play, learn, click on things, check out all the different options available in the menu, and just see what things do, and learn how you go, because Illustrator is actually a very powerful package, and you can do a lot of amazing things with it. It just takes a little bit of time, like Photoshop, I guess, in that respect. It takes a little bit of time to learn some of the tricks of the trade. But once you know Photoshop and Illustrator combined really well, then the world is your oyster in terms of the graphic design stuff you can produce. You'll start being able to make some really amazing stuff. Very worthwhile package to learn is Illustrator. So take the time with it and have some fun. Thank you for watching. This has been Mr. B.